Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Hello, everybody. Good morning from Australia, cold, rainy Australia. Welcome to Choice, Change and Action podcast. You are with me, your host, Simone Milasas. And then today, in a very, I think 38 degrees, you said, in Netherlands, we have Miss Kalpana. Actually, Kalpana, how do you spell? I mean, not spell. How do you pronounce your last name?
Raghuraman will work.
There you go.
Kalpana.
Welcome.
Kalpana. It's also fine.
Exactly. So, and don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that if you are listening to us, you can also pop on over to YouTube and you can be watching us, and you can see the beautiful Kalpana there in heating up in Netherlands, and me cold and shivering in Australia. No, I've actually got an amazing gas heater. You put it on in the morning. I like sneak out of bed, put it on, and it warms up the house within minutes. It's fabulous. So we've been meaning to do this podcast for quite some time. There was a conversation that came up at Rome Facilitator Training, Access Consciousness Facilitator Training with Gary Douglas and Kalpana. And I went, oh, that would make a good podcast. And I don't know, we've just been, different things have shown up in life as it does. And so here we are now, and I'm grateful to have you on here. And wonderful. One of the things that we were just talking before we started here, and we were looking at like, what new choice do you have in life? Like, what is available? One of the things that Gary was addressing with Kalpana is the difference between choice and creation, doing an institution. So do you want to talk a little bit about that, Kalpana, and the awareness that you had from that?
Absolutely, Simone. It's actually a lot of us thinking that we are creating a lot, like projects, ideas, plans, whatever, creations. And Gary showed me like, well, actually that is a result of a choice. So the creation is actually not what's happening. There's a choice that you're making. So I said to him, I'm creating a lot. He's like, no, you're choosing a lot. And that energy of like, you're choosing a lot really changed something in my world, because it actually shows you that you're empowered. Like, that's what it did to me. I was like, oh my God, I'm choosing a lot. It's a very different energy than I'm creating a lot, which has a doing, very different energy. And when he said that, because we say in Access, Gary says it, we all say it like choice creates. You make a choice and it creates something. But when you're saying I'm creating a lot, what I realized is I'm looking at the end the choice comes before, and I'm actually ignoring that fact. And when you realize and acknowledge, I chose that, something greater really shows up. It like really opened up a space for me. That awareness was like, oh wow, I choose a lot. And that just really empowered me. I can't really put other words to that. Don't know if that makes sense, Simone, if I say that.
Yeah, no, I love it. It actually excites me, because it's one of the things that drives Gary crazy is when people go, oh, I created this, like, oh, what else can we create? Oh, we've created so much. He goes, no, you haven't created, you chose. So just to break this down for you guys listening, because this was actually, I was definitely one of those people who was like, oh, I'm creating, or, you know, what did we create? Or look at what we created this year or something. And to look at it is because you choose. And what we talk about in Access Consciousness is like, if you choose, being in question as well, that's the beginning. It's like, you know, asking a question and then choosing. And then you've got all of these possibilities that show up, like from your questions and choices. So a zillion possibilities. And it doesn't mean you have to choose them all, but don't not choose them. Because I'll see a lot of people sort of go, oh, well, this is an either or, and choice is not an either or universe. It's like, you've got this multiplicity of choices available, like a plethora. And so if you have them and you go, oh, I'm going to choose this, but all the other possibilities are still sitting there. I sort of describe it as like this, you know, think of all the billions of stars, and it's like, and all the stars are these possibilities. Don't kill the future by going to, oh, I chose this, or I'm creating this, and that's it. Like, you're looking for that result, like you were talking about. Have all those possibilities always out there. So when you wake up in the morning and you're like, wow, what possibilities are available today? How many choices can I make today? And even just choosing, for me, I would look at even just choosing, okay, I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to choose happy. I'm going to choose ease. Like, it doesn't have to be, I'm going to choose. So I want you to talk about the doing thing too. I'm going to choose to ring this person or blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be that energy. It can also be the energetics of what's going to contribute to you. So talk about that institution and the doing thing and the difference between that as well, Kalpana.
So as we were talking, he was showing me how we think we're doing something, right? Like I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And he said, well, you love to institute things, like to bring into existence things, which is a very different energy than doing. When, you know, we all know the doing, we're really good at it, like, you know, working hard and all that stuff. And he said, as soon as you confuse that and you think you're doing something, you literally take away the ease that you can have by putting something into the world, by instituting something. And so that is, again, like we're actually making it harder than we have to, because also, like, I'm creating a lot, has this even can have a proving, like, look at what I'm doing, right? But when you say I'm choosing a lot, there's a space to it, and there's this, for me, a relaxation to it.
Oh yes, the relaxation. I know. So as you're talking, what the awareness I have too is, it's like the difference between this reality and what you're told how you're meant to, you know, function, and then your reality and what you actually get to choose. Because I don't know about you, but like growing up here in Australia, there was definitely it was considered a good thing to have a to-do list. Like, even if you look at all the stationery and things like that, you know, they've already got the to-do list up the top and you start marking it off. And for me, writing a to-do list, I would have this to-do list and then I'd be like, right, this is a big list, you know, and then the next day or the next week, you'd be like, okay, didn't get much of that handled, so I'll just add to my to-do list. And it was this continuous doing, you know. And I'm going to say, I don't not do the doing list now, but I have it in a different way. Like for me, when I'm, you know, if I'm like out walking on the beach or on a plane, a lot of the times on a plane, I get a download of different information because I'm not, you know, having people left, right, and center. So you've got this space. When I have the space, and then I will take my phone and I'll have these random notes on my phone, but it's more like these ideas and things like that I'm like, oh, this. And it helps me to take it out of my head. So otherwise it's like pinging in my head, and I might not even necessarily ever look at that note again. And sometimes I find it, but it's like, it just is this, it makes it move for me. So what I'm looking at is like too, with the way you choose the asking questions, choose possibilities, and how everything shows up, is start to have a look at what works for you as well. It's like, you know, what's going to, like, you don't have to do it as per what everybody else is, you know, telling you that you should do. This reality, it's like, you know, gosh, things have changed so much. Remember we days used to work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday?
Those days are long ago. Seem like
long gone. Yeah. So, and you are a very, very creative person, Kalpana, and you have a lot of things on the go. I mean, let's just look at this for a second. You're an access consciousness facilitator, which includes how many different specialties do you facilitate?
Relationships and different, 3-day body class, talk to the entities, being you. I have my own specialty class about movement, one about manipulation, about weight, so bunch of stuff.
And then you also own a dance company.
Yes, I also have a dance company. I'm the choreographer, artistic director. So I have, it's one of the things is the vision, but then also really creating the work. So right now I'm making a piece about death called True Life. And
nice,
so,
I like that.
Yeah. So yes, there's a lot of things going on.
So with this conversation with Gary, it's like, what changed for you?
Well, it was one of the things that I realized is that I was somewhere, by not acknowledging the fact that I was instituting and that I was choosing, I was making things harder than I had to. And when he told me, like, you create by choosing, and you institute, and so the doing for you is not that thing that everybody thinks it is. And if you can actually acknowledge it, you can create, you can actually put more into the world than you realize. There's so much more possible. So it really opened up a space for me. And it was, I listened to that conversation many times, because it was, there's also always an energetics to these conversations, as we know. But the biggest thing it did was like that choice and that instituting and that whole energy of doing, like the lists, they all changed. And one of the things that I wanted to say, what you just said about the to-do list, I love lists. I love notebooks. I love to write. People always make fun of my notebooks full of drawings, but then that to-do list is no longer to do. Like, since I started Access, that started to change, and that list might change, but I always just, the things that are pinging in my universe, I will write them down. And then, how that is, Simone, that the thing that is not at all for today is pinging so loud. And if you're willing to follow the energy, it's like, it's on now, so let's do it now. And then it's that ease and that not doing, but that instituting actually shows up more.
Yeah.
So
So let's talk about,
yeah.
Let's talk about the energetics a bit, because that you're so correct. It's like, and if you're listening to myself and Kalpana and you're trying to work out what is it that they're doing that I should be doing that's going to be the right thing, it's not about that. It's like, so right now, it's like everything that you've decided how you have to do and be in life and work, will you please destroy and uncreate it? Times a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys, provids and beyonds. And that, if you've been listening to my podcast, you'll know, but that's the Access Consciousness clearing statement. And you can find out more about it on theclearingstatement.com with myself and Dr. Dane here talking about it. Actually, a very humorous video, I thought. So, because it is about the energetics. And so let's talk about, because everything we are talking about now has an energy to it for you to be actually be able to choose your life, your reality, the way it works for you. Like, I love that you still have notebooks and you write different things in there and draw different things in there, because that works for you. And it's like, I have different ways of writing things down or doing things, because that works for me too. And I've one of my assistants, I'm always like, hey, can you just like ping me when something's done? Because what we've realized is otherwise the way I describe it is it sits in my head. But
I know.
if she goes, hey, that's paid or this is done, it just goes and it leaves, otherwise it's sitting there, because I don't know, that's just the way I function. So it's like, okay, I'd like more space. So just that's the way I can eliminate stuff, so that I go, okay, there's more space. What else is possible? And for me, with that energetics, it's like I described all of those possibilities being out there, with every single star and more. It's like, go huge. Like, for me, it's like, you've got your body here, but you as the being are just everywhere. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like, if you can, shut your eyes, and if you're driving, don't. And just reach out further and further and further, like beyond the city, the town, wherever you live, beyond the country where you are. It's like, visit Kalpana in the Netherlands, visit me in Australia. And it's like, go further out. And where else if you wanted to go to, someone's doing a class, where was it? Iceland. And I went, I'd love to go to Iceland. And it's like, so go further out, your being across the whole entire planet. And it's like, from that space, when you are being that big and that large, it's like, that's when you choose and choose and choose and choose, and you invite the whole entire world and the universe to contribute to you with every single choice. So everything that is, and everywhere that you went, no, I can't do that, I just have to have this limited small life, will you please destroy and uncreate it? We're inviting you to something way bigger to play in, where you destroy and uncreate it, right and wrong, good and bad, pock and pot, all nine shorts, boys, provids and beyonds. Well, that helped me wake up.
So
so then, go ahead.
No, go on.
No, I was going to ask you about like what the energetics for you, like, how would you describe that? Because we've got so many tools.
Yeah, well, it's also one of the things that, opened up even more from that conversation, and also as you're talking with the relaxation, because as soon as it became more clear, like, hey, this is not doing, this is actually instituting, the ease that comes, like I have a lot of ease. I really am like into ease. If it's not ease, I'm like, okay, I have to change something. But I'm also like, if you look at it, it looks like I'm doing a lot. Like you said, I have dance company. Like now I have rehearsals all day. I come home, I have calls, I have Zooms and blah, blah, traveling. But if you do it from doing, it is hard work and tiring. But if you do it from the acknowledgement of choice and instituting, it's not. And that really makes a big difference. So we are actually able to, those millions, gazillion possibilities are also possible when you allow the energetics to contribute to you and not to do it like, let's say, a machine, you know, like we're all so programmed to function like a machine and be efficient and, you know, do it and just get it done. And it's like, if you follow the energy, you're going to do that thing that's calling you, not because any logic. And that really makes a big difference for me in creating and choosing and putting things into the world.
Thank you so much. You actually just really helped me. I've been having a pretty interesting time the last 3 days. And yesterday I was just like, I said to Gary, it was like this thing of like, I just didn't want to work. And for me is like that's a very weird space for me to be in. I mean, I wrote the book Joy of Business. I actually truly love every business I've ever done. Like, and like you, that ease, like I invite ease. But the last 3 days, it's like everything I was doing, whether it was like, a podcast, media, a class or anything, I had this sense, like, I was like, I felt like I was going to work. And he said, what does that mean? And I was like, that I don't want to do it. And then he said to me, well, how many people in the world don't want to work at the moment? And I was like, so what we actually got to, like, was I also know that my awareness has increased so much. And if you're listening to my podcast, it's like somewhere you are actually asking for more awareness as well. And what I started to look at yesterday, which I spoke to you about before we started this podcast, was how many people in the world don't want to work at the moment. It's like there's the world has changed so much. There is, I mean, gosh, it's like we're living in it. And we're also living in it in where we are, but we're also living in it by social media, which I'm not so sure is doing us any favors. It's like, yes, you do get to find out what's happening across the world, etc. But it's also got a lot of these projections and a lot of judgment and a lot of, this separation as well, like on what I see happening around the world. And I know, we were both talking about how many people, like companies and businesses, etc. We all know about the airlines. It's like, you were saying, was it engineers or technicians that there's just no one available?
Just like
gone.
Kind of leaving, So
yeah, I mean, I met this Uber driver the other day, and he was I can't remember there was some job that he did, and he said during COVID I just left, and he said then I went, I actually would like an easier life. So he started in Uber driving and then something else, and it's like, and I'm wondering, like, if you're listening to this, what is it that you would like to choose? Like, what is it you would like to create as your life? So choose and then create as your life, because it's not about getting, like, oh, what's the least amount I can do?
Yeah.
It's like, what is it that you would like to have a look at? And Gary, actually, he gave me 2 questions, because he said, what would make you happy and what would I like to choose? And I even had to look at my phone to look at those questions, which I think is funny. You get these really simple questions, but you're like, I must look at it, because when it's your item, you're like, what did you say?
Yeah.
But it's like, what would make you happy and what would I like to choose? And I realized how much I was functioning from the demands of others. Like, what do they need? What do they need? Trying to fulfill everybody's needs rather than, okay, hang on a second, what works for me? And gosh, it's like, we don't allow ourselves to that space to just go, well, what does work for me? And when I'm choosing for me, I'm like you. It's like everyone goes, oh my God, how do you get all those things done? And I'm like, it's not a doing, it's a choosing, Yeah, it is. It's fun. It's joyful. It's choosing. And it's got that ease that comes with it. So it's just like boom, boom, boom. And, we were talking about all these lists, but one of the things I would definitely function from is, where is my energy required today?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Which makes it not logical, like, right? Like, where's my energy required? Might be for a project that's like, or for a class that's in 3 months. And you'd think it's a call that you have tomorrow, and no, actually so that's also allowing that illogical, nonsensical thing to show up, which is for me connected to this choice of like the guy going, you know what, I'm stopping this job. I'm going to be an Uber driver. Doesn't make sense. I got my nails done in a new place the other day. And the guy, I was talking to him and I was like, this is a new place. What's your background? And he's like, he was an IT guy. And he literally just stopped doing IT and started a nail thing. And it was so big. He went to a new city and it was a second place. And I was like, wow, something new is available for people. Like they're choosing not to do what they're supposed to do or what they studied or what they thought they should do. You know, it's really cool.
I like you said that, because it's like, how many people actually desire to choose something different, but wouldn't allow themselves to choose? And like, notice we're using choosing, and wouldn't allow themselves to choose something different based on, this is your job. This is, you know, I mean, I remember when I traveled many, many years ago, you know, when I was like 19, went for 3 years and came back, and everyone was like, well, now that you've got that out of your system, you need to settle down. And I was like, what? And I was like, no, this is just the beginning. I just got a taste of it, you know? And I remember my parents saying to me, you need to get a good, safe job. Like, why don't you get a job in a bank? And I mean, I was so petulant and whatever. And I went, I'd rather stick needles in my eyes than have a good, safe job. But that's how I felt. I was like, but everything I was choosing was going against what I was told I should be choosing.
Yeah.
And it's like, so now I get the freedom that people have to, so what if you actually did start asking, what would you like to create as your life? What makes you happy? Write a list, write that to-do list. what makes you happy? What it is that you would like to choose that works for you. Yeah.
And how much does that then seem like indulgent, or like, oh, I worked so hard, or I'm so exhausted, now I'm allowed to do it, instead of you're actually always allowed to choose that, you know? Like that's something I've really been choosing more. And the more I choose what's fun for me, what my body likes, the more it contributes to all the other choices I have. But we will think like we're not, you know, part of this, like you studied for this, or it's time to settle down. It's part of this like program, you know, like you do that once you've retired, or once you work you're so tired, now you go get a massage because you deserve it. And life is to live
funny.
now.
Someone pinged me yesterday and they said, because we have what you call in Australia, it's a super fund. So it's what you put away for your retirement. Okay. But it's a low tax rate. It's a 15% tax rate. At the moment, I can put $25,000 a year in there. And so I have a self-managed super fund. And someone left me a message yesterday going, okay, can you tell me why you have this super fund? Because Simone, you're never going to retire. So what are you going to, how does this work? What do you get from it? And I was like, well, it's like a piggy bank. And I was like, if you've got the cash flow, have the super fund, because when I'm 65, the Australian government goes, okay, you can have your money. And I've got all this money as a low tax rate. I said, it's just a piggy bank. That's all, you know, but I love the fact that they went, it's not making sense. You have a retirement fund, but you're not going to retire, not congruent. And I was like, no, you got to use it to your advantage. So, but I remember, Kalpana, when you started your dance company, and it was like, you were like a deer just born, like on these shaky legs going, is this actually going to be possible? Like, it was so like sweet. Yeah.
I asked you so many questions in the Joy of Business classes because I was just like, it's true. And it's amazing to see how it's also being tenacious, you know, but like, you know, there's something there and you keep going, and people might be like, are you sure? And it's like, well, yes, there's something there. And that's now my company we started in 2016 and we have national funding now for, you know, and we're having so many projects, super busy. It's been amazing, but it's also this curiosity mixed with tenacity, I would say.
Yeah. So this energy though, because guys, I would say listen to this podcast again, because a lot of the things that Kalpana and I are talking about has this energetic congruency with what you can ask for, what's possible, and truly anything is possible. Because if I look at your dance company when you first started that, and then even when you looked at getting funding, etc., it's like, and I get this so matches the energy of what Gary was talking to you about, of you've chosen a lot, because you kept choosing, even though there was this I knew, like when I would talk to you, there was this thing in your world that you were like, are they really going to give me a box of candy if I just ask? You know, like that was like, is that really going to show up? And then you're like, oh my God.
Exactly. And one of the questions you gave me, Simone, which I still love to ask, is what will it take for me to outcreate the current system? And like during COVID, where here the theaters were closed, we created so much, and you're like kind of not supposed to. So it's also all these tools just really always allow you to be on this creative edge and out of the box, you know?
I love that. So what would it take for you to outcreate the current system?
Yeah. Yeah.
Great question.
Yeah.
Cool. I love that you use these questions, though. You use the tools and you just keep choosing greater and greater and greater and greater, which then allows more to show up in your life.
Yeah.
And what else is possible? It's just the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, like, you know, 9 to 5 jobs, all that kind of stuff. Like the world is changing so much. It's like a whole new world, really.
Yeah.
And all these tools really support that. They're really, like you said, they're not, you know, they're not to talk about, they're actually to implement and to function from, and we might forget them, and that's okay. But, you know, when you get, like you said, like, oh, that's the, oh yeah, that one. And then whole world opens up again. So it's this constant, and that's what for me also kind of is like a food, you know, like this enthusiasm, but it's also like you keep going. And then, like you said, you have so many things. I mean, you talk about having a lot of things, Simone, like you have so many things going on, but that enthusiasm is also because you get excited about, you get enthusiastic, and so it doesn't make you tired. You don't have a like burnout or any of those things, because it's coming from this fuel that gets created by the choices, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. And look, and I also think it's okay. Like I said, like the last few days, I was like, I knew I had to get to something, because I was just like, this is not, like I said, I feel like I'm going to work. It's like off to work I go, rather than the joy that I get from everything that I choose, like every class, every person I talk to, etc. But I knew I had to look at something. So, you know, it's not about getting it right. You don't have to keep waking up every day going, oh, this is the right choice. It's like, no, it's about choosing. And I love Dr. Dane here said at one point, I've made more bad choices than most people have chosen. I was like, that's brilliant. Like, just keep choosing, keep choosing, keep choosing, keep choosing, keep choosing, and sit in that. Like, if you have to have that awareness, go for it, because you always come out brighter on the other side.
Can I add something to this that's popping as
Yes.
Simone? I remembered you at some moment during the COVID pandemic, you were saying like, hey, you guys, I'm actually not traveling like crazy, but I'm actually choosing more relaxation and I'm taking care of my body more, which is many of us, I think, went there. But I am really seeing how when you have those days that you can't do anything, I think we all know those, and we then go into, oh my God, I have to do this and I'm so bad, or I'm useless. And if you actually don't resist it, but you give in to what your body's actually aware of, after that, you're like, you know, something else shows, like it's just, it's again, it opens up a whole space. And if you're not functioning from like, I have to do it right, or I have the right way now, so I must keep on it, but really listen, you know, when you, and have that question, it's just so different. I just wanted to add that to this conversation, because it's also this space of, there's all this and you can, there's all these stars. I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And there's also space between the stars, and you can have that space. It's not about being productive. It's really about a spaciousness.
Well, if I look at my today, I've got this podcast with you, and then I've got someone coming over and doing body work on me. So I booked a session with someone, and then I have Pilates. and then I've got a friend coming over this afternoon, just like relax. And it's like, so today is about that. And it's like, it's a Wednesday. It's okay. It's like, don't make it about this timeline of what day of the week it is. Like, you know, maybe a Sunday night or a Saturday night, I'm like, you know, madly recording something or doing things, because I just have this, you know, enthusiasm for what I'm creating. So follow the demand, follow the energy, and choose based on that. So there's so much more possible. And I want to say, add one thing too, is so many people are talking about the world is going to shit, right? And it's like, what if it wasn't? What if it was actually not falling apart? It was falling together. And what if now is the space that you get to choose from a much bigger banquet of choices? Like, even though it's been projected at you from every media, from every government, that your banquet is now small. What if everything is the opposite of what it appears to be? and your banquet is actually massive and the whole world, and there's a universe of possibilities available, then what would you choose?
Wow.
Yeah.
Loving that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good.
So is there anything else we've covered a lot of different things here, but is there anything else, Kalpana, that you want to add to this for people to take away, or tool or anything like that?
I think what you kind of addressed with you don't have to get it right. Like, you can mess up. Like, the day in here quote is amazing. Like, I made more bad choices than many people even chose. It's like, just go for it. And just like, I always say, when you learn to walk, you fell all the time. Did you stop trying? No, now you didn't give up. And we're like, you have to carry me all my life because
I love that analogy. Can you imagine?
Analogy of choosing. I'm like, you're still doing it. You made it. So it's also like, it's okay that falling and the getting up and the slow motions and fast like all of it is part of the game and part of the play. Like, allow it, let it be messy, it's fine.
Yeah. And I love the way you described that, because I could just see this kid falling down, but the key piece to that is too, the kids don't judge themselves, and they don't think it's going to be painful either, or they don't go to any of that. They just get back up,
Yeah,
like, I love that. Yeah.
So let's have fun.
Cool. Yes, exactly. So Kalpana, thank you so much for being on here. Where can people find you?
They can find me on my name.com. So kalpanaraghuraman.com would be the place where you can find all that I'm up to with my classes and calls. And if you go to that website, you can see what I'm up to.
Cool. And we will have your, Instagram handle and all those different things in the show notes as well. And also Access Consciousness, you can find her there too. I always think it's interesting when I say, where can people find you? It's like one day someone's just going to give me out their home address or something and be like, this is where you can find me. But it's like, she's always on the move, so maybe you can't find her there. Yeah, exactly. So, and ladies and gentlemen, also, if you want to find out more about Access Consciousness, go to the website, accessconsciousness.com. We literally have thousands of practitioners and facilitators around the world. I highly recommend, when life is getting a little bit like, it's like, go and get your bars run. If you don't know anything about bars, check it out. You've got bars classes all around the world as well. Bars class is great because you actually get to receive bars twice, and then you get to give it twice, and you watch this really cool video, and there's a lot of stuff, and you can become a practitioner. So you could actually make that as your choice to change your lifestyle and become a practitioner and make money from running bars. There is infinite choices available to you. So stop trying to make it this finite, and literally just ask the question, what infinite possibilities are available for me today? So thank you so much for joining me here, Kalpana. I adore you. I look forward to hugging you and your sweet body sometime soon. And thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change, and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.